Hey guys, Asher coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. Glad to have you here. Taking a little time out of your day to talk Raid Shadow Legends with yours truly. Today is actually a popular video request idea, an updated list of legendary champions that you do not have to book to get some extremely good value from, okay? Before we get into the list here, I think I have 10 or 11 champions. I do have to give a big disclaimer because this applies, I think, to a lot of champion lists that we share here on the channel, but especially to this, right? Number one is you could probably, with almost every champion in the entire game, no matter the rarity, make the case that they're better booked than unbooked, right? Generally speaking, you're just getting a little bit more damage, a little bit more heals, a higher percentage to land a debuff, etc. So yeah, there's always going to be some sort of value in booking a champion. So with every champion, for the most part that we talk about, you're going to be able to go in the comments and say, Ash, yeah, you can use them unbooked, but they're probably going to be better booked.
You gotta be heckin' f***ing me!
But I guess the point is actually that there's so many other champions, legendary and legendary skill tomes are so hard to find that need books, that require books to extrapolate full value from, whereas these champions, you can get very close. So what does that mean? It means save your legendary skill tomes from these champions and use them on legendaries that, you know, you really do need books. What type of champions, in case you're new to the channel, really need books? Well, any champion that has like a bunch of cooldowns on one ability, like Oella, the last fusion in the game. There's so many champions like this, right? The majority of champions in the game. But again, you know, 3 levels of cooldown here, 3 more levels of cooldown. Yeah, Mother Cybele probably needs to be booked. But of course, there's also exceptions to every rule. And this brings me to my second disclaimer. That is, it depends on where and how you're using a champion, right? Because, you know, if I pulled Mother Cybele in the early game or in the mid game, I could just use her as progression and just put her in a stun set just with the A1. You know, like, and still get value out of the rest of her kit. So I say this to say that you could probably make a compelling case either way in a bunch of champions. As I said, I don't have Mother Cybele on this account, but if I pulled her, I would use her unbooked and I put her in a stun set and just Mask of Dread all day, every day, you know, with an occasional revive on death and increased defense. Even though it's on a 6-turn cooldown, I can still get value out of that. The other thing that we look for is in champions that we don't necessarily have to book is really good passives, right? Now, I'm not sure that Gravewalker is the best passive in the world, but champions have really good passives without booking them for cooldowns. You can just take advantage of them just out the gate. You know, I'm thinking about healers such as Syl the Drakes, you know, like you can use a champion like that even if you don't have her totally booked. Like, I don't have any books in the Syl the Drakes on my free-to-play account.
But I never thought you would or could do that to me.
I'm really sorry, kiddo. But you thought wrong.
But I'm still going to get the revival. I'm still going to get those heals every turn. No books required there, the increased speed, etc. So sorry for the big, long preamble, but I think it's important to talk about this stuff, especially in the context of a video like today's. So I'm going to start out, as you can see, I'm on the Vexthal account. I'm on the free-to-play account. I actually wanted to share a few champions that I run, legendaries, on my account here, that I purposefully did not invest any books in at all because I'm getting tons of utility out of them. I'm going to save my books for things like, well, Ninja, right? So I have him.
I am dead inside.
Well, I don't have him fully booked, but I wish I did, okay? So he's not an example, but Mashal, I think I have him now, not fully booked, but again, you know, I put 1 book into him, it went right to the level, it went right to Tornado, right where we wanted it, so I don't have to waste the rest of the books, right? Another example of strategic thinking behind how you're using your skill tomes on really any rarity of champion. Anyway, guys, Ultimate Death Knight is champion number 1. So obviously, I got my hands on Ultimate Death Knight for free. This guy is one of the best free champions ever given out in the game for 2 main reasons. Number 1 is he's a beast in the arena, and number 2 is he can solo a ton of content in the game all by himself, as long as you build a little bit of resist and you put him in a toxic set for that extra damage. Now, you could probably get by even without the toxic set. It would just take you a lot longer, okay? So anyway, very, very good champion. That's because of his first passive. Actually, the second passive. Didn't need him. Increases champion's defense, HP, speed by 10% for each dead ally. You put him with food, you're getting a 40% boost to all those stats. It's insane. It's easy to keep him resisting and staying alive there. So that's amazing. And then his other ability, Too Awesome to Die, is going to soak up the attacks from single target hits in the arena. And he's very tanky, right? So he's going to be soaking up those hits instead. Those debuffs will not be applied to whoever they're targeting. Instead, they'll be applied or tried to be applied to Ultimate Death Knight. So while, yes, You can definitely get a lower cooldown on his decreased attack, a lower cooldown on his shield and continuous heal. The main crux of the value the Ultimate Death Knight is going to provide you, you can still take advantage of just from those passives, similar to a champion like Vogoth, right? He's an epic champion, he's not technically on the list, but it's another champion that you're just really leaning on the passives of Vogoth. And where the heck is Vogoth?
Can anyone give me an example of failure? Okay, what else?
Dude, Ash, you're in Demon Spawn, bro. You're in Demon Spawn. Vogoth, right? Passive. Sure, he's better, you know, if you get that provoke up to a 75% chance on a 3-turn cooldown, but the most value you're getting from this champion is actually coming from this Festering Dynamo that requires no books, right? So, again, that's what I'm looking for a champion. Ultimate Death Knight definitely has that. The next champion, guys, trying to move things along here a little bit, is Prince Kymar. Now, I actually have started investing in Prince Kymar because he's that good of an all-around champion in the game. But you could get by, and as a matter of fact, I do on my main account. I have 2 Kymars, and one's for the arena. And guys, I think I just booked him, but I played him for like 2 years, this other Kymar, just simply with no books in him, because for the arena, and Kymar is one of the best arena champions out there. He's got speed in arena battles, right, for an aura. And then he's got attacks all enemies, removes all buffs, and places asleep. None of that says 75% or 50%. It's just happening. He's attacking everybody. He 100% chance to remove all buffs, 100% sleep debuff, right? So we only really need this one time to open up, because the second time it comes back around to Prince Kymar in the arena, we're going to use Seal of Magic, reset the cooldowns of everybody else's abilities, and hopefully with 2 turns, we win, right? That's it. You don't need to rely as heavily on getting back to this on a 3-turn cooldown. Of course, there's other areas in the game that would benefit you from putting Prince Kymar into, or fully booking, Prince Kymar, but again, for the arena, and even for like Seer reset teams, Seal of Magic gets the job done even on a 7-turn cooldown, you know? On that second wave, boom, you use it once and you bleed through them, right? So Prince Kymar definitely can get value without having to be booked. I also wanted to talk about, where is she? Rhonda. So I have no books in Rhonda, right? And she's a great nuker. I'm actually seeing a little bit of Rhonda in Platinum Arena on my main account. That's how good she is. She really is a serious arena champion and Fire Knight and a bunch of other areas in the game as a nuker. Now, again, especially with Rhonda, this one is going to be arena specific. I'm using her right now, and this is what we talked about in the beginning of the video. It depends on where and how you're using these champions as well, right? But for Rhonda on this account, listen, she comes in with Fury Tremor. It's attacking all enemies 2 times, damage increased by 30%. This champion has more than 50% HP, immune to cooldown reduction effects while the skill is not on cooldown, decreased all turn meter reduction effects used against this champion by 50% when the skill is on cooldown. So the passive, it's just available, there you go, and the attack is hard hitting, and you know, getting it a little bit extra damage and on a 4-turn cooldown, sure, it's better. You can still get the job done just on that nuke, right? Same thing with the A2. It's a 3-time hard hitter ability. We got block active in passive skills. Cannot be resisted. And again, you're just booking it for damage in one last cooldown, but coming in the arena, opening up with the AoE attack and going to the A2, you're still going to be looking really, really good with an unbooked Rhonda, which again is why I don't have her booked on this account. And then the 4th free-to-play, before we switch accounts here, guys, is actually going to be Deliana. We'd actually just mentioned this with Mother Cybele, but I actually did this on this account, not anymore with this build. She just has random gear on her.
When you say it like that, yeah, it sounds really sad.
I used to, when I got her, I didn't book her at all, as you guys can see, right? Now listen, if you want to use her for Hydra, of course you're going to get so much more value out of booking Deliana. But for me, again, I wanted her to be a support kind of healer and a stun. So I tried to turn her into just a CC crowd control champion. So I put her in a stun set, and I just used the A1, right? I would, you know, use the A3 if I needed it, block buffs, you know, it's a nice debuff to have. But for the most part, Heart Sealer, and then the AoE on Know Your Place, and then shut off the Withering Scorn. In a stun set, boom, she's going to be hitting on AoEs every single turn, right? And then she's going to be landing that leech to heal up the rest of the team. And then she has a strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns every time this champion's HP drops below 50% on a 4-turn cooldown that does not require any books. So again, it's how you use these champions. You have to think strategically given how scarce and rare legendary skill tomes are in the game, and that goes for any skill tome. All right, let me switch to my main account. We'll talk about the other 6 champions. All right, guys, next up is Mortu Macabre. This dude is everywhere inside the arena, and boy, is he nasty, especially on a slow build, as you see here in a Stone Skin set. I haven't booked on my main account as I do most champions, but the cool thing is the secret skill Peril, it's unlocked. No books required, both on the passive that unlocks the ability and the ability itself. It's ignoring defense, ignoring shield, ignoring block damage. So yeah, sure, you can book out as A2. It's better for like Hydra and other PvE areas, but in the arena, you really do not have to book your Mortu Macabre. Sure, it's a nice to have, but it's definitely not a necessity on this champion. Next up, guys, is actually going to be a champion we haven't talked about here on the channel. I'm not even going to try to find him in my recently used because he's nowhere to be found, man. And he is Vizier Ovelis. So Vizier, guys, on the A1, this is still a very unique A1. He's not a super meta champion right now, but I want to talk about something on this dude. On a Cursed Blades, it's a 3-time hitter. Each hit has an independent 35% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target. Now listen, before you go typing in the comments, yes, this is a champion that you really do want to get that 35% up to a 50%. However, if you think strategically here, and if you're light on skill tomes, what you can do is put him with give him the counterattack masteries, right? Retribution, right? Deterrence, right? And then put him with a counterattack champion on the same team on a clan boss team. A champion like Skull Crusher, or a champion like Valkyrie or Martyr, right? Or if you don't have those champions, or I should say, if you want to add more to the equation, put in a champion like Cardial or Ferric the Fat. I'm talking about ally attack champions, right? So if you put him on an ally attack or a counterattack team and get the counterattack masteries, he's going to be using his A1 at such a high frequency that 35% chance on every single all three of the hits, right, is actually going to be enough to extend the max duration of all debuffs on the target. But again, it's thinking strategically here. If you don't have him with the counterattack masteries, if you don't have him with a counterattack or an ally attack champion on the team, then you're probably going to have to book this champion out. But it's just going to get you guys thinking about, different pairings that you can utilize so that you can save some legendary skill tomes. All right, next up is going to be none other than Mr. Drexstar Blood Twin. Drexstar Blood Twin, the main value in his kit is his passive. Fiery Blood, right? So you can book up the chance all the way to 75% chance of placing an HP burn for 2 turns on the attacker when hit, right? But a 55% chance every time he's hit with no cooldown is still extremely valuable, and it usually gets the job done just a little bit longer, okay? Especially in solo builds, he's still going to be able to heal himself up with the A1, heals his champion by 20% of the damage inflicted, so he's got like that built-in lifesteal component. You don't really need books for that, although you can get a little bit extra damage, but really 3 books for just a little extra damage and a little extra heal, I'm not sure that that's going to be a necessity, right? So sure, again, another champion that you can book up the chance of a provoke and the cooldown on his provoke ability, but if you have him like in a regen or lifesteal build, kind of a solo build on this champion, you can still get by utilizing this passive with just a 55% chance of the HP burn off of it. All right, same thing with my man Undead Horde Euros, the Soul Cage. I think he's like the second or third champion you get from Dune Tower Hard Track, and he's one of the better champions you get. This dude has a lot of books you can throw into him, right? He has 2 cooldowns on Soul Bounty, which is a great ability. If you're using him as a support champion, you're probably going to want to book him out if you're using him for the strengthen and the ally protection. However, if you're just using him to get that poison every time he's hit, when attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a poison big version on the attacker for 2 turns, right? I mean, you can book that up to 75% chance, but similar to Drexstar Blood Twin, it's a passive that has a high likelihood of landing a poison. So if you have him built just in regen and Immortal Gear to solo Doom Tower bosses like the Scarab King, it's still going to get done with Call of the Cage unbooked and the rest of his kit completely unbooked. Just let him heal himself, put a bunch of HP on this champion, and you're going to be absolutely fine. Does not require books unless you're really trying to get the full value out of this champion in other areas of the game. But where he's most widely used as a solo champion, the books are not required on Euros the Soul Cage. All right, next up, guys, is going to be, oh, my man, it's Hegemon. That's right, Hegemon, guys. He always goes first every round, if you're lucky enough to have him, right? So he's always going to go first no matter what. That's great. You don't have to put speed boots on him, put attack percentage, go for extra damage. And then on the Crippling Cold, the ability that he uses once he goes first has a 50% chance of placing a block active skills on the target with a decreased attack, right? But if you book it all out, you still get a 50% chance. It's still on a 4-turn cooldown, right? You're still going to go first either way. You're just getting a little bit extra damage, which is valuable if you're building a Hegemon to be a nuker, but It's more of a nice to have versus a required necessity on Hegemon. So definitely do not have to book out Hegemon for using him in the arena. Same thing goes, guys, with, I want to end on a couple arena specialties. One of them is Yakarl the Scourge. So on his A3 ability, this is what you're opening with. It's Glaciate in the arena. Attacks all enemies. You can get extra damage and one less cooldown. But again here, the idea is you're opening up with 100% chance of putting a freeze on targets with 75% more turn meter. It cannot be resisted by targets with 75% or more turn meter. So usually, as long as you're going first, the enemies in the arena are usually going to have 75% or more turn meter. They're not going to be that much slower than him in most cases, in some cases. So it's going to be an unresistible 100% freeze, right? That's solid. Irresistible, unresistible, irresistible.
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
You can take advantage of that ability without having to book him up, and he's a free champion too, meaning that you can farm as champion fragments inside the clan shop. His Lord of Ice passive, it's going to be utilized absolutely the same, no matter how many books you put into it. Obviously, there's no books to go into it. Sure, again, you can get more value out of Blizzard Rider with the books, but you can get that 100% freeze with no skill tomes. That's really, really valuable. All right, guys, last but not least is going to be none other than Galicia. I have a hunch that Galicia's Soul Guide is actually going to become a lot more popular when live PvP goes into the game, because she's going to really neutralize Warlord and Yumeko teams. You might want to ban her if you play Warlord and Yumeko, if you're lucky enough to have them, and the opponent slots in a Galicia. Salacia, what? I used the S from the Soul Guide and I put it at the beginning. Salacia.
I'm for real. So you better check yourself.
Cool champion, very tanky, 1500 on the defense. Timeless, passive. This champion's skills cannot be put on cooldown. Whenever an enemy tries to put either this champion's skills or an ally's skills on cooldown, places a freeze debuff on that enemy. Also has a 50% chance of denying cooldown increasing effects. The freeze debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. Will not deny cooldown increasing effects from bosses. So again, this ability, this passive, it kind of makes her a perfect kind of sub-in champion against, you know, even a Basher or a Lika. Any champion out there that's going to put your skills on cooldown. So you can utilize this ability without any books at all. It's a passive ability. She's still bringing a decent 60% chance without books of placing a freeze on all enemies, and turn meter fill, and block debuffs is a guaranteed on all allies. This is on a 5-turn cooldown, but it's still a great ability even unbooked to kind of supplement that amazing passive against those particular teams. Another champion that just came to mind here, a bonus champion for you all, is Heffrak, right? So Heffrak, the Heffrak Scorn, it does a ton of damage no matter what. And the instant activation of this ability, it is on a cooldown. Whenever an ally is killed, instantly activates Heffrak Scorn. Will not put the skill on cooldown, so it's a hard-hitting ability that triggers whenever anybody's dead. It does have, again, a 1-turn less cooldown. It's not going to be that much of a difference maker. Usually with 2 strong AoE nukes, you're going to be A-okay. They'll be dead anyway, right? So if you pull Heffrak, you get your hands on a great nuker who really does not require books to bring a bunch of his value to the arena. So there you go, guys. 12 legendaries that I would recommend maybe saving your books on for a little bit and use it on champions that really require those books, that you know you're going to need them to extrapolate that full value. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching until the end. And as always, take care, guys.